Dear students, we said learn on caste and class in India. In last class, we have already discussed about the meaning, characteristic of the caste system and recent changes. So, it is also important to know about class system in India and how caste and class both determine Indian social structure or the stratified Indian society. So, let us know about why stratification is there in all societies. As we have discussed, the stratification is inevitable to all kind of societies, and it is universal, and it is also unavoidable. So, from that respect, we understand that there are certain segments, divisions, subdivisions, which is found in a ranking pattern in all type of societies, whether it is Indian society, European societies, or African societies. So, when you speak about Indian society itself, so we must understand that Indian social stratification has some peculiar characteristic, right? And the most important or you can say the unique part of Indian social stratification is the caste system, which determine its social stratification. But it is not the caste system alone. Along with caste, we understand that class, which is the universal component of all modern societies, that also determine Indian social stratifications. So, if you look at the social stratification from the conceptual point of view, we understand there are so many factors like caste, class, status, power, education, income, wealth. So, all those components that divide society into many segments, right, and it varies from society to society. So, which components are very influential or have major impact on the social stratification in one particular society is not going to be same in case of other societies. Okay, as in some societies, wealth, income, occupation, material position, that is being given utmost importance. So, mostly when you speak about the European societies, that is more individualistic and materialistic in the sense that class is the most important determining factor for their stratification. But in case of most of the Asian countries, in all those societies which are found in Africa or Asia, you will find that here culture is very important, collective value is very important. So, wisdom, charisma, along with the ethnic and caste position of the individual or group, that matters most. So, in this context, we understand that in Indian social stratification, both caste and class, that determines its structural arrangement. But what is the common, you can say the common characteristic which is found both in the caste and class while determining social stratification? That is, it reinforces social inequality. However, we are all talking about the division, gradation, which are outcome of the stratification. So, both caste and class, that ultimately leads to social inequality, discriminations, divisions and segregation. But the intensity of inequality or the degree of discrimination, that varies from society to society. Okay. So, we shall learn about the class, we shall learn about the class as one of the determining factor of Indian social stratifications. So, before that we should have some idea about the meaning of the concept class. Basically, what do we understand by the meaning? It refers to a group of people with a similar social status. So, very very naturally, one thing that comes to our mind, maybe class is something which refers to wealth, income, property. Okay, so people having the same economic status may belong to the class, but sociologically the term class has been interpreted differently. So, wealth, income, property may be one of the determining factor to decide the class position of a person or group, but this is not enough. So, social privilege, status, honor, attitude, values, these are also important to provide a particular position, class position to an individual or a group. So in this context, we can take note of the observation of some of the important sociologists, starting with American sociologist Anthony Giddens. What is the meaning of class? So he says, or he defines, that a class is a large scale grouping of people who share common economic resources which strongly influence the type of lifestyle they are able to lead. So here Giddens' definition to class is based on the economic basis of the group. Okay? So that means economic resource that decides, or the property, the wealth that a person has or the group of person has, that decides the class structure of the society. Okay? Moving next to the definition of Max Weber, which is very significant to understand the meaning of class. So the way Weber defines that class is something related to similar life chances or opportunities. Here Weber is not talking about the property, wealth, or he is not simply referring to a common economic position or the situation. He talks about similar life chances or the opportunities. What do you mean by that? Similar life chances, opportunity refers to the similar conditions of living. That means as in the society there are rich people and there are also poor people. If you classify them on the basis of the wealth, then we can say that yes, the society is stratified into upper class, middle class and the lower class. But it is not always the case in all type of societies. Particularly in the Indian society, you will find that money, property, wealth is not the sole deciding factor. So here the status of the person, how much honor, how much respect that we give to the person, that is most important. For example, in our type of society, if you compare between the social position of a teacher and a businessman, so certainly we can understand the businessman is a wealthy people who have enough money, a huge amount of treasure in the form of bank balance. But a teacher, a school teacher who has a meager income, is a salaried person and who has a little income at the end of month. So here economically the businessman is prosperous, but in that sense we cannot assure in our context that businessman enjoy more status. He may enjoy a good condition of life, but more respect, honor, that is given to a teacher because it is related with a value. Teaching is something which is valued most. So for that matter, a teacher is most respected than a businessman. The businessman holds lots of money. So here Weber makes the difference between status and class. And also he added another point that is called power. Power is also another determining factor to decide the class positions. As in the present context, to have political nexus is very important. So whether you are in political front or in economic front or in other front, if somebody has the ability to exercise his will over the others, okay, so then we say that the person is powerful, who can expect the things to be done according to his will or her desire. So status, class and party or the political linkage, all these three are determining factor to class position. So from that context, that Weber says that similar life condition which where the people enjoy all the resources or the similar life condition, then we say it as a class. Similarly, the opinion of Karl Marx on class is very crucial. How does Marx define the concept class? He says that a class is a group of people who stand in a common relationship to the means of production. Okay? So what is the basic difference between Weber's definition and the Marxian definition? Marx solely depend on the economic position of the person. Here he has counted economy as the only deciding factor for the social stratification, which is not the case in when we relate to Weber's definition, where Weber take account of the economic, social and political dimension of the person to understand his class position. Marx only take into account the economic position of the person. So, he says that class of a person is determined on the basis of his relation to the means of production. What do you mean by means of production? Though time will not allow me to give a detailed explanation to that, but simply I say that it's something related to production system. And Karl Marx has divided the society into have groups and have nots group. Those have groups, they always owns the entire production system. They have money power, they have technology, they have control over the resources, they have control over the labor power. So, they enjoy all status in the society, right? And the other group which simply give the labor for the production work, they do not own the means of production in any way. So, those have not a group, they always remain behind and they are deprived of all kind of societal resources. So, if you speak about the social stratification, Karl Marx simply has cited the example of the polarization of the classes. The entire society is divided into two classes, have and the have not. Okay, and who is going to to be included in the have group? Who owns the means of production, and who belongs to have not group? Who do not own the means of production. Very simple, in a very simple way, Karl Marx define the concept class. So, a man's relation to the means of production decides his class position in the society. So, he didn't think about any value aspect, ideological, religious, caste or social aspect to understand social stratification or to understand class position of the person. So, that is how we understand that the social class is an aggregate of the people who have similar status, similar rank or common characteristics. So, if you combinedly take account of the definition of Giddens, Weber and Marx, we find that class refers to those group of people who have similar status, similar lifestyle or similar social positions determined by their economic status, social status as well as political status. Okay? Now, coming to characteristic of the class system, to have a better idea on the meaning of the concept. So, what are the characteristics? Class system, like caste system, it also refers to a system of hierarchy of status. Okay, but this status is not religiously defined. It is not defined on caste line. It is based on the economic position of the person. So, this is how we understand the class system in the society. And second characteristic speaks about unequal distribution of wealth and power. As I have told you that all those factors which determine social stratification always give result to some kind of discrimination, inequality or segregations. So, in this respect, it is quite obvious that class will be responsible for unequal distribution of wealth and power. That means, the people who are living in the society are not going to be in the same economic position, are not going to be in the same social status. So, there is unequal distribution. And then the third important component is flexible social mobility. So, class, unlike caste, is flexible, it is not rigid. So, in that case, we have to understand that a person can move from low caste to upper caste, or it can also have a reverse movement from upper to low, and that depends on the person's ability, achievement, his efficiency. It is not fixed, it is not dictated as it is found in the caste form or in the caste system. So, there is flexible social mobility. Okay? A person can easily go up if today he is at the lower strata, then by applying all his talent, efficiency, ability, he may go up in the socio-economic positions. And class also projects achieved status. That this is what we are discussing now, that a person's status is not on the basis of his birth or his religious background or ethnic background. It depends on his own ability. So the status the person achieve in the class structure, it is not given to him, it is not prescribed, it is something that the person achieve by his own effort. And then it is related to some kind of consciousness, what we say class consciousness. That means there is a feeling of superiority, inferiority. The people belonging to one particular class, they have some degree of superiority to the class who are below to them, and some degree of inferiority to the people who belong to the class above to them. So there is some degree of class consciousness, and that is a typical lifestyle with distinctive culture. That means each class has its own distinctive culture. They want to project themselves in a typical manner so that they will retain the class identity. So it is linked to typical lifestyle and distinctive culture. Similarly, as we discussed that in class structure, feeling of superiority and inferiority, it attached to it, and class consciousness, which gives an awareness that they belong to their or belong to a particular class group. Okay. So we learned about the meaning of class and its characteristics. Let's make some distinction between class and caste, particularly in the context of Indian society. So while making the distinction, we must understand that class is something which is universal in character. It is found in all type of societies. Okay. So if you go past also, you find the society was divided into many groups and subgroups, divisions, creating a class structure. And today it is more prominent and it is more universal to all societies. But while talking about caste, it is purely Indian in character. You will not find caste system in any countries of the world. So that what makes the Indian society peculiar in itself. Though there are certain historical evidences of caste, like segregation in early civilization or in ancient city states, but in the present context, we see that caste is exclusive characteristic of the Indian society. So it is very much indigenous in character or Indian in character. And caste is hereditary because since generation that caste identity that continues. So if a person, we want to know about the caste identity of person, then we understand it by his birth in a particular caste family. But it is not the case with class. Class is not hereditary. It is very much, it very much depends on individual effort, individual ability, or individual, what you said, the talent. So class is not hereditary. Caste, it always refers to social status of a person, because it is linked with privilege, honor, a social position. But class is not like that. Class simply refers to economic status. Though economic status, of course, it demands respect, honor from the society on the basis of their class position. But that economic position is mostly or primarily that depends on the material position, income, wealth, all those, the economic aspect of the person. And caste is very rigid and closed. One cannot simply change his caste background. So throughout the life, a person is expected to go with the caste identity. It's not going to be changed. But in case of class, it is changeable. One person, if he earns 5,000 and belong to a lower strata of the economic structure, he may go up by his ability, by his effort, and may turn to a big businessman or may turn to that is how you become a rich person and earn a lot at the end. So it is changeable, it's not fixed like caste system. So class is flexible and open. It is flexible, open means there is no restriction that which particular group of people from a particular caste or ethnic background they are, whether they are allowed or not. It's not like that. It's open to all people irrespective of racial, ethnic or any other factor. And then caste is characterized by social restrictions. They have lots of social prescriptions, social norms which are taken as guidelines for their day-to-day activities. So, how to eat, how to drink, what type of cloth they must wear, what type of house that they must dwell in, or to whom they worship, how to worship, every details of one's social life is already given to them, and in some cases there are certain imposed restriction which put all those things in do's and do nots category, should or shouldn't category, what should be done, what shouldn't be done. But in class there is no such imposition. There is no such restriction. A person or a group of persons, they have full freedom how to lead their life. Okay. Similarly, with regard to commensalism refers to a certain ideology which further brings restriction with regard to daily social intercourse, mostly with regard to eating and the drinking habit. As we have learned about the kacha food, pakka food, the division which has been made by the caste norms, or all other social restriction which are exist against the Dalit or the scheduled caste people. So those commensal elements are not found in the class structure. And most importantly, caste system based on collective values, group values. Why? Because it is strongly supported by religion. There are certain religious ethics, religious doctrines which support to the caste system. So the individual members, whether they belong to higher caste or lower caste, they have a strong affirmation, they have a strong inclination towards their own religion. So normally they do not deviate. So that collective values always act as a forceful element to their life. But in case of class, we find that these values of individualism, as it focus on the individual ability, individual effort, so the values of collectivism is very much replaced by the values of individualism in case of class. And that individualism, that value is very secular. It is not supported by any religious doctrine. So the secular character of class make it more open and flexible, whereas the religious character of the caste, it make it very closed and rigid. Okay. And for that matter, because class based on the individualism, so there is achieved status. So a person who is going to achieve a status by his ability, right? But this is not the case in case of caste system, because it rests upon the collective values. So whatever has already been dictated, what has already been given, that is simply to be followed, that is simply to be adhered. So the status of a person is ascribed in nature. That means it is already given. Your person need not to effort a lot, simply he has to accept it. And the occupational structure in the caste system, which is linked to it as the economic dimension of the caste system, is also fixed and hereditary. Here also a person has no choice which occupation that he is going to take up in future, is already defined by his caste background. But in case of class, it is open and secular. It is not defined. It depends on the individual's interest, the ability, and that's why the whole thing is secular. When I am speaking about all those jobs and employment opportunities in the industrial world or the business world, it is not religiously defined at all. So class has a very open and secular occupational structure, and caste has a fixed hereditary occupational structure. Okay. So moving to next, let's learn about class system in India. Okay. We know that caste has been a major determining factor to Indian social stratification since long, and it was very dominant. Now also it is dominant, but what is the change? We see that like caste, class is also playing a very significant role in determining social stratification in our society. So, what led to emergence of class in India? That is also an interesting topic to the discussion. So, we have all these major characteristics what we see on the slide, that industrialization, urbanization, new legislation, land reform policies, bureaucratic administration, modern education, or opening of new market, expansion of transportation and communication, all these factors or the forces of the modern society are responsible towards emergence of class structure in the Indian society. How it is? So, simply we can understand the urbanization and industrialization that created a new socio-economic environment. So, where people started to migrate from their rural base to the urban base. As you know that a village community or a rural community is a strong preserver of our traditions. But when they migrated to a new place, urban place, and those people, they came to the urban place from different corners with different cultural or caste background, they started to stay together. They started their lives together. So, in that circumstances, the caste background, religious background or ethnic background could not be could not be given that much importance. Rather, it was the income, it was the material position, it was the occupation which was very important for the people, because they have migrated for the sake of survival, for the sake of their livelihood. Okay. Similarly, modern education, that also created a new environment. It changed people's mindset, new ideology that came into us. So, the people started to look at the world with a different perspective, unlike the ancient or the old pattern of the society, where people were forced to look at everything from the religious or caste angle. But modern education that opened their mind and that allowed people to look at the society from a very scientific and the pragmatic way, and also modern education is linked to employment and occupational opportunities. So, a person who is highly educated, definitely he is assured to get a good good employment opportunity, a good job future. So, that again defines the class position of the person, even though he is born as a low caste member, but he because of his education he may go up in the social ladder. So, like industrialization, urbanization and modern education, legislation or the new laws which has been enacted has also a significant role to play towards formation of the class system in our society. What are the examples? For example, those laws which have been enacted to enforce democratic values or to protect the fundamental rights of the people. Okay. So, those new laws, they have that has given a new outlook, and that those laws have helped people to fight for their right to find out a dignified life. And they have understood that if they remain in the old conservative setup, which is very much caste ridden and which is full of superstitious elements and with some sort of discriminatory approach, is not going to help a lot towards leading a quality life. So, with the support of new laws, particularly those people who belong to the Dalit class or the lower caste background, they could find out a suitable platform to fight for their cause. So, those laws were helpful to give a to provide a new formation of the class structure in the society. Similarly, we can speak about the land reform policies. So, land reform policies which started during colonial period and continued till the late age, it basically redefined the relationship between between landlord and the peasant. So, those peasants who were landless, they were but they were cultivating on the land. So, those reformation that allowed those peasants to own the ownership of the land. So, it simply changed the equation of the land and land ownership structure. So, that also gave, you can say, it provided a sort of empowerment to those peasant class, and that led to the formation of a new class structure, new agrarian class structures. Similarly, when you are talking about bureaucratic administration, that is also very relevant towards contributing the class structure. It started during colonial period because of their administrative works. So, Britishers, they started to appoint educated Indians in their offices, okay, in order to carry out various administrative functions. So, new class structure that emerged, new professional groups also came to the front, like the profession of doctors, the profession of bureaucrats, the profession of the teachers, the profession of the clerks. So, new type of occupation, new type of jobs were created, and for that matter, you know, it altogether defined a new social setup. And opening of new market, that is very important, as we all are living in a globalized world. So, market decides everything. So, whatever we are doing, keeping in view whether it is going to work or not, whether it has value in the market or not, right. Even the people are learning things in the classroom. So, whatever they are learning, they are also keeping in mind whether they can use their knowledge in their future life or not, to be mostly to be economically independent. So, everything has a certain value in the market. If something has no value in the present market, then that is discarded. So, my point is that focus has been shifted. The focus on tradition, focus on caste, focus on religion, that has been shifted to new opportunities, new classes, new aspiration, new hope. So, all those things has been given by modern educations and the new structural pattern that is in continuation since post-colonial period. Okay. And in addition to that, the development in transportation and communication, that has also helped to towards the emergence of class structure. With the improvement in transportation, people from different corners of the country, they could come to know each other as it accelerated the process of movement. So, people from one place moved to the another place. So, that kind of exchange process, the interaction process, that got intensified. That means it happened more and more. So, with more communications, there is less gap. So, the ritual distance, the ritual concept of purity and pollution could not be maintained. Again, in the Indian context, that caste importance that lost its grip, and a more focus was shifted to the economic achievement, educations, holding power and going up in the social hierarchy on individual ability. So, all those forces of the modern society which rest upon individualistic value, egalitarian values, democratic values, that helped towards the emergence of class system. Moving next, we shall learn about rural class structure and urban class structure. Though we know that class structure is one of the important component to Indian social structure, but there is a difference. The difference is between rural community and urban community, because it is not same. We know that society is very complex in itself. So, what are the component of the rural class structure? So, we see that the jamidars, the landlords, they hold the topmost position in the rural class structures. Here now we can speak about those people who hold a large amount of landed property. So they do not cultivate on the land, but with the support of the labor class or the peasant class, that they make cultivation. So the major share of the profit that goes to them. Then comes absentee landlords. So absentee landlords refers to those landowners who are directly not in cultivation, who are not managing the whole thing. They are staying abroad or they are engaged in other kind of business, but through middleman or through other people, they are managing their work. So they are known as absentee landlords. They also occupy high status, they also occupy high socioeconomic position in their respective areas. And then comes tenants under landlords. When we speak about landlords, that means occupies a large acres of land, and there are many tenants who are working under the landlords, and they are they are supposed to give their allegiance, they show their allegiance to the landlords. Then comes the peasants or the small farmers. So we may speak about medium range farmers or small range farmers. So these are the people who are you can say to some amount their life is stable and they are leading a stable socio-economic life, but the landlords and jamindar, of course, they enjoy a lavish style of life. And next, the agricultural laborers, who are at the bottom of the rural class structure. They simply survive on the basis of their labor. Agricultural laborers are hired and paid wages, and that wage is very minimum in comparison to the labor that they invest. So they are the poorest of the poor category, and they occupy the lowest strata of the rural class structure. And in addition to this, we have the group of merchants and group of money lenders who also play a significant role in the rural class structure. Coming to urban class structure, we know that urban community that provides lots of economic opportunity or new type of jobs, new type of skill. So on that basis, we find the urban class structure. Here at the upper strata of urban class structure, we find the group of capitalists, industrialists, businessmen, financial experts and advisors. They always control the market. They are the sole decision making bodies with regard to the economy or the economic process of the community. And then comes skilled and unskilled laborers who are working in the official setup, in the industrial setup, or in other houses. So those skilled laborers who are educated and are empowered with their skill and the technique, unskilled laborer who simply work manually without a particular skill. So they are less paid laborers. And apart from them, we have petty traders and shopkeepers who are in small kind of business and earning for their livelihood. And apart from all this, the most important component in the urban class structure is the professional group, the people who occupy a particular class position on the basis of their professional skill. So here we may refer to the group of doctors, technicians, engineers, lawyers, even politicians, journalists, managers, event manager, bureaucrats, educationists. Okay, so all those people are professional in the sense they have a certain skill, and that is the source of their livelihood. And they are specially skilled, and they are in that profession to carry out their business. So urban class structure has this image. Okay, moving to next, caste and class nexus. So far we came to know about the meaning, characteristic, emergence and of class system, and also differences between caste and class in the Indian context. But it is very important to discuss on the caste-class nexus in the society. Though caste and class seems opposite to each other, as we discussed while discussing the differences between caste and class, but surprisingly they are very cooperative and supportive in the Indian context. So it has given rise to caste-class nexus. Okay. If you go to the conceptual differences, we understand that caste and class are polar opposite. They do not meet. They mutually exclude each other. But in the actual scenario, there is a parallel growth of the caste and class. It is not that caste stands opposed to the class system or class has no link to caste in the Indian context. We know that class represents a democratic society having equality of opportunity, and caste is just reverse to that. So, from that respect we understand that caste and class are polar opposite to each other, but this is not the case. Why? Because caste and class, they mutually rather assist each other. If you look back, we find that there was no class system in ancient India or during medieval period. It was very much submerged into the Varna model, or it was submerged into the caste model. So, what caste division was there in ancient India or medieval India? That was presenting the class model of the society. So, both caste and class, as we know, that it jointly give rise to inequality and hierarchy, and that is the commonness between caste and class. But as we understand that class is achievement oriented, but caste is very much ascribed one. But in the Indian context, that achievement and ascription was very much intertwined, was very much mixed with each other. So, in India, the ritual status of the caste, that was the sole deciding factor for the economic status of the person. In a very simple way, you can say that a person from the higher caste background, he had all privileges or all accessibility to go up in the social positions. So, the person who was ritually higher, was easier for him to go up in the economic ladder, or to occupy a higher economic positions. So, here in our context, we relate caste with the class from this angle. As we know that caste creates a hierarchy, and the upper caste people are being given utmost privileges. So, on the basis of that privilege, they use the societal resources and they go up in the class structure. So, here caste and class have a very strong, a strong correlation. They do not exclude each other, rather they include each other. So, during pre-colonial period, class was within the caste system, and now caste and class, they do not contradict, but influence each other with parallel coexistence. So, in this context, we must understand the caste-class nexus from Marxian perspective and Weberian perspective. From Marxian perspective, we must understand that Indian caste based on the achieved pattern, which divides the group of people into privileged and non-privileged section. As Marx has already pointed out about the polarization of the classes. So, the same polarization of classes is found in the Indian caste system. So, if you apply a Marxian idea to understand class structure in the Indian society, it is clear that we can also polarize the entire caste system into two class groups, like the privileged and the non-privileged. Okay? Why? Because upper caste people, they have always used the resources for their benefit, whereas the low caste people, they have always remained behind, or as a deprived section, or as Dalit. So, from that perspective, we can make the distinction, the entire caste structure into two class group. One is the privileged and another one is non-privileged. But Marxian ideology cannot be fully applied to understand the Indian class structure. The reason is what Marx has talked about, the future class struggle. It is not possible in the case of Indian Indian situation. It is not going to give rise to any caste struggle or class struggle of that sort. So, if you take note of the M.N. Srinivas, he has conformed to the ideology of Karl Marx, as he said that the upper caste have succeeded in retaining their advantageous position in the past by land ownership and liaising with the ruling power. So, this is an example what M.N. Srinivas has tried to give, that upper caste people, because they had lots of resources and privileges, so it was easier for them to own large acre of the land and also to have connection with the ruling power, to attain higher education, to use all resources. So, the persons belonging to the upper caste could easily shift shifted their base to the upper class of the same society. Okay. Now, moving to the next, that what we are talking about, the upper caste, those who have taken advantage of the modern education, they have progressively moved forward. They could westernize themselves while joining the new ruling class like the political party or bureaucracy. You know, in the present context, who are the rulers? The rulers who are politicians, rulers who hold the topmost position in the bureaucracy. So, if the question will come, who are occupying that topmost political position or topmost bureaucratic position, it is the upper caste people, right. So, all those upper caste people who had the access to the societal resources, they could easily move up in the class positions. So, those upper caste have adapted themselves to change and form the upper class, while those who remained behind, who could not bring that accessibility, who were not holding that accessibility to the resources of the society, they remained as before. They could not move up in the class structure. Very few they could move up. If you look at the present statistics, we know that major portion of the high salaried job or the topmost powerful rank or the position, that is occupied by the upper caste people. But what changes has come to low caste people? The low caste people simply could change their life pattern or the behavioral aspect by adopting Sanskritization, the way M.N. Srinivas has pointed out. So, we can observe some behavioral changes because as we know, the low caste could imitate the lifestyle and the ritual pattern of the upper caste just to move up in the social ladder, but that could not guarantee, that could not assure that much to go up in the economic position. But in case of upper caste people, it was easier for them to move up in the economic strata, because the ideology of secularization or westernization, that was easily accessible to them, and that could be implemented in their case, because they were in the advantageous position to use the secular idea, the western idea, and they could make their life better than before. Similarly, from the Weberian perspective, we can understand the class structure of the Indian society, that it is not purely from the monetary angle or from the economic angle that we need to understand. Rather, Weber says that caste and class must be understood from the status angle. So, status is very important. Though someone is earning a lot, but he is not getting that much social recognition, he is not receiving that much social respect, then his economic position alone cannot help him to enjoy the upper strata of the society. So, here we must understand the individual and the families which are classified as part of the same social class, they must have a similar life chances or similar amount or the same amount of prestige, or they must belong to the same category of the people who have the similar attitude, right. So, here class of a person in Indian society is determined by his economic position, by his social status, and the amount of power he holds. So, unlike Marx, Weber is not confined to the economic determination alone. So, the theory of Weber, that has different angles to look at the stratification arrangement of the society. So, we say normally that Marx has a monodimensional approach to understand stratification, but Weber has a multidimensional approach, because he is not confined to economy alone, he has included the political and social into it. Coming to conclusion, important to understand that class structure, which was not very prominent during ancient or medieval days, it became very prominent during modern period or postmodern period. Now, class is becoming more clear, is becoming more prominent at the social front, but earlier it was submerged into the caste system. So, what we came to know about a social class, it is an aggregate of people who have same status, who belong to the similar position accorded by the society or hold the same rank and enjoy a common lifestyle. And caste and class, though seems opposite to each other, but in the Indian context, they both jointly contributes to understand social hierarchy. So, they both of course perpetuate inequality and hierarchy as well, but they do not stand opposed to each other, rather they complement each other. So, caste, as you say, that it is very rigid and very fixed one, so it must it must standing itself as obstacle to the class movement. It's not like as we found that upper caste people have easy access to occupy the upper class position, and the low caste people, they, because of not having access, so they remain in the lower class situation in most of the cases. So, there is a parallel, you can say there is a parallel structure of the caste and class in case of Indian society. And another important thing is that in caste, ritual status that determine the position of a person, whereas in the class structure it is the economic position of the person that determine his status in the society. But the economic status is also linked to ritual status because of caste and class nexus in our society. So, this is the uniqueness, or you can say peculiarity, which is very much observable, that the ritual status of the person is also linked with the economic status of the person. So, and how it is very much linked, that we came to know that upper caste people, they have succeeded in retaining their advantageous position in the past as well as in the present. So, if you take note of the number of successful people holding topmost position in politics, in education, in economy, the most of them, they belong to higher, most of them have higher caste background, because it was easier for them with easy access to the resources to move up in the socio-economic ladder. Okay. So, this is how we understand the caste class nexus. That does not mean that caste does not stand as an obstacle to the movement. When you compare between rural community and urban community, we find that in the rural community, caste still play a role of obstacle towards the free movement of the individual in the socio-economic position, because there is importance of the joint family, there is importance of authoritarian rule, there is importance of caste norms. So, somehow the flexibility which is expected in the Indian class structure, it is somehow it is missing in the rural structure, but it is in the urban structure, it is very open and flexible. So, both have their continuity in the social hierarchy while influencing each other in the Indian society as well. Thank you.